Welcome to the Seraphine podcast. I'm Seraphine Arocha, and today my special guests are from an incredible organization right here, Kansas City. It's called Angel Hearts. Today, I have got Marie Kissick and her mother, Alice. And Alice, you're going to have to help me with your last name.
It's DelBosque.
DelBosque. I'm like, I love it. I didn't want to puncture it with my first attempt at it, or actually second attempt. But anyway, welcome, ladies. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we're going to get the conversation started. And where I'd like to kind of go first is your journey into what you do now. What started first? Alice, since you are the mother,
Yes.
I'm going to have you begin of where your empathy grew for animals and where it turned into an organization, inspire you to do what you do now.
Okay. Basically, it was my daughter is a junior high, and I basically saw that being a single mom, trying to give her everything that, moms want to give their children and making up for things that they couldn't have as a family. I saw that she was getting a little bit
entitled
and felt like she deserved and getting spoiled. And it's just growing up with the girls that went to the Catholic schools. So then I decided that we were going to start doing something. So the first thing I thought about was going to Animal Haven over, it was in Miriam, is where it used to be. Now it's considered Great Plains, but just cleaning out the kennels and taking the dogs for walks and stuff. So it was just doing that, and before you know it, you get into, taking a dog home, fostering it, and then and just wanting to know more, I think. And, she was doing other things. And
I was getting into trouble. You're being nice. I was getting into trouble a lot. And the walking of the dogs was a way for me to do something that was productive, that was part of the community, and something that would also help me in school, because I was in Catholic school, so we had service hours, and so it kind of made sense to combine the two and meet new people that were not in the school I was in, but outwardly branching towards people who were trying to do things in the community, like Animal Haven was, trying to help out with the dogs.
When did you notice? I am the oldest of four girls, and we've all been through a lot in our stages of personalities. When did you notice a change in your daughter? Because I know in the beginning when I was asked to do volunteer work, I was like, this sucks.
Yes.
And then I'm doing it with my mom, or I'm doing it because of school.
Yes.
So my attitude in the beginning was definitely not the bleeding heart that I am now. When did you start to see a change?
I don't think I really saw the change in her. I guess I wasn't really expecting anything from her. I was just wanting to have her experience things. So it was just going through life. And as she was growing, just sending her places to Farm Sanctuary to, and not just animals, it was also the Indian reservation where she was rebuilding homes for one of the junior high, I think it was. But it wasn't anything that I expected from her, because I could clearly tell that it wasn't something that she cared about. I mean, it was just something that I was questioning in my own life. I was just thinking that we need to do something. But it was just moving forward to, once you get sucked in, is where you hear it all the time, is where you start fostering and you start doing this and you're sucked in.
When did you see it, though, from me? When did you see me change?
I think I surely saw it when you try to help me in Angel Hearts.
So I have another question.
There was like a switch, and all of a sudden that passion, and I keep saying it's a passion. It's just like, no, I'm just trying to help you. I'm like, no, I'm watching you with the animals, and I'm seeing you get down on your knees and letting them lick your face.
So I have another question. I feel very lucky that I have a mother that I have, but I also could understand as I got older, and then she had more children, and then being a single mom, I think too, can really wear on your patience. Yeah. So when you have the grumbly teenager or daughter come with you, and you're trying to enjoy the experience yourself, what kept you nagging at her to keep going? Because a lot of parents would, try it and then be like, this is just a pain in the ass. You don't want to go. You're making it 10 times more difficult for me. What kept you pushing her?
I did want her to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
I wanted her to follow her own. I always told her not to follow. Always be the leader or be yourself. You can't be the follower.
Yeah.
You got to choose either to be your own path, or be the leader of something.
And I kept following.
You kept following,
and that's why she kept pushing me.
Yeah.
So it was just
I didn't
part
figure
of
out
life.
how to lead yet.
Yeah, it was just part of life. It was just, this is how it's going to be in our house.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to do where we came from, where the men were the controllers and the ones who took care of and made the decisions for the women, because that's where you are from a Mexican family and a military family.
Yeah.
But I just think that I was trying to do different for her, make her my mother. You know, my mother, even though she was married, she still was the person we went to. She was a strong person in the family.
Yeah.
You know, she loved her children unconditionally, regardless, you know, and she lived a hard life, and my grandmother lived a hard life, 14 children. So I guess I saw the men, but I also saw that the women are the backbone.
And resilient. I think women are very resilient. It's especially when you have such a strong male culture. I come from a Middle Eastern culture, and I married a Panamanian man. He's half. He's got a little bit of Irish in him, but Irish guys aren't exactly, known for their compassion either. But I guess I'll turn to you now. And when did you start to see your mother as an advocate for animals, and when did it start to tug at your heartstrings, like you understood it, not just watched it and observed it, but you started to feel that empathy?
It was kind of like in the very beginning with us, it really was just about being there for each other, and just seeing that, like, in our family, I don't know how you would put it, but my grandma was very much just like, in this family, you take care of each other. So if you see somebody in your family need help, or you see that they are needing a hand up because they're just not getting to a point where you think that you could maybe potentially help them at, like, you go in, and there is no question whether you do it or not. It's just a matter of how do you do it. And so for me, when she started Angel Hearts, it was at a point in her life too where she was changing, and she had a lot with rescue on her own that was emotional toll on her. And I had just had a couple of children of my own, and I kind of started to be like, oh, I think that what I want for my daughter is for her to also feel the same way I feel about my mom and grandma. And that's when I said, well, I'm seeing my mom go to work in the morning from, like, let's say 8 to 6, and then I would see her go out on the street from 7 till 11, and then I would see her rotate her own animals that she has in her home, and she would only get a few hours of sleep in between each crevice of time. And I saw, well, I have a heart for my mom, and that indirect resulted in having a heart for the animals. I always liked animals. I always loved animals. It was something that was a part of my life growing up in high school, and being able to go to some farm sanctuaries, and staying there in Colorado and experiencing what life looked like, completely opposite from what I've known it to be. And my heart just started to say, you see your mom, you see that she could use some help. How could I best help her? And that's really where I started the Instagram for our Angel Hearts, and really started pushing our Facebook. But when I started to see her actually work with the people and work with the animals, I saw what she was trying to do. It was not anymore was she trying to save an animal off the street, but she really was trying to set a path for people in a good way. And she has so many stories of ways it's worked, on ways it hasn't, on ways where she's still searching for certain people, because it's inconsistent on the information we get of our houseless people. But every single one of those people who has come through her life has literally put an imprint on her heart. And so she carries that with her as she moves forward. And each time I see her doing a little bit more, giving of her time, it makes me think like, well, I could probably give a little bit more because I see how this made him. And when I say him, specifically one of our houseless people this weekend, but she saw how it made him so happy. And so it's an ever growing actually of emotions. I feel like I'm in my own change of it because I feel each month it gets a little bit stronger.
Well, it's ever evolving, right?
It absolutely is.
Ever evolving.
Absolutely is.
So I have a question for you, Alice. How did the brainchild start? First of all, the name, Angel Hearts Rescue. What was the inspiration behind the name? And then talk to me about what got you going and how you started, how it began.
It was just doing animal rescue on my own. It's pulling dogs from the shelters. When you pull dogs from shelters, you're trying to pull as fast as you can, just like other rescue groups, from the KCMO shelter, and they're getting euthanized. And you go as quick as you can. I think after a while, you see so many bad things happen. And then I got to a point where I just couldn't move anymore. It was just the end. So I guess what I saw was a homeless person with a dog. And it's like, okay, now what can I do? And I need to take a break because I was really losing myself. And so I think seeing that, then I started to Google, who do I know, what place do I know that works with homeless people that also is attending to the dogs and cats? And all I could find was Uplift. And I saw Uplift, and I knew that they were limiting, like taking whatever they could get, like dog and cat food out on the truck with them. But it was sometimes just enough to get them by for that one trip out. There's like 3 trucks right now that are going out because of the COVID, and they feed anywhere from 250 to 350 people. It just depends if it's nice out. If it's really cold, they're not going to get out of their tent because they're having to stand at a stop and waiting for Uplift to come. And they take out the food for the people. They take out hygiene, they take out some clothing, they take out toiletries, things like that. So as I volunteered there for 2 years, and after I think so many months, I start seeing like what's going on with the dog. Why do you have a cord around it? Why do you have
a leash?
A rope? That's their leash. And then the dog, sometimes I would see where they were really red and mangy, or they were sick, or that dog didn't come back because it died. And why is that going on? And it's like, okay, I started the name Angel Hearts is because a couple of our friends and I were going back and forth, and they were saying you're going to have something ready, because you are taking a break, but you're going to have to get help because you don't have that job that you had that gave you lots of money that I was paying for everything out of my own pocket. So to be a 501c3, we're coming up with names, and it's like, okay, what do I want to do? Are you an angel to these? And it's like, okay, we're not really a rescue group. We're not, like I used to have a rescue license. I'm not doing that. I think my thing was like, I just want to help.
Dogs. We can't adopt. We can't adopt dogs out, and we can't bring dogs in.
Right. Yeah. So we don't have a license. So just trying to figure out what I was going to do, and so I just decided that okay, I'm networking with a lot of different groups as it is, because as you're doing dog rescue, you're making this networking with other groups, and you get to be like your good friends, and they can help you help each other out. Can you take this dog? I need to get it, adopted, and we do home visits and things like that. So then I thought, okay, fine. Don't know what I'm going to do, but it was just there. It was there because the need was there, and how to get the food and how to keep it on the truck so that people weren't feeding their own dogs and cats people food, which is horrible. I mean, because you don't ever know what's in that food. Like if they're making like a goulash, or they're trying to make a pasta or something for them. They're trying to make enough to feed how many people.
It's for the people, not the animals.
Right.
And so for our viewers and our listeners, I'm going to ask you to describe a typical rescue or a temporary stay with the animal so they can understand exactly what you do.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of camps out there that you would not believe that are really out in this area. And basically it's because I was on the Uplift truck, that's how I gained their trust. They knew and saw who we were, because you just can't go out into somebody's home is how you consider these camps their homes. And so it's all different kinds of stories. It's where
Like
they're
typical,
dumped.
Yeah,
These
like
animals are
night.
dumped. Yeah, they're not like you very rarely see where a person has like basically lost his job, lost his house, and now he's on the street with his 2 dogs and he's got his bags of his clothing or something important. But mostly it's these dogs that are in camps and they have strays. People are dumping animals. Yeah. And so when people say, well, they don't deserve to have one, but guess what? Our society is dumping them. Yeah. So we're going to help educate them. So, I mean, it's just all kinds of stories. It can be where there's a guy who's gotten a puppy because that puppy makes him happy, and someone who's giving away puppies has gone down to the West Bottoms and handed out all these puppies that they've had. Yeah. So that's what's so sad. People aren't responsible to get their dogs spay and neuter. So now we have all these puppies who are having puppies. So you try to educate them. Try to say, okay, let me help you. Let's get them, first of all, parvo is very prevalent out there. So I worry about that. So we get them started with one of our vets we work with is getting them in and getting them the parvo distemper vaccination. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, what kind of food are you in? And it's like, okay, we're going to help you. We need to get your dog spay and neuter.
So when somebody calls, and that's basically how this works, is mm-hmm. that kind of coming back to what does it look like for us, right? We work with the Uplift organization that does serve the people. They, in return, if they see somebody that needs help, they see somebody that needs help who has a dog or a cat, is looking for services beyond just the dog or cat food that is given to them from the trucks, they contact us. Uh-huh. They'll give us a call. So we have a phone number and an email address, mm-hmm. and they can contact us through those 2 options. And by doing that, we then receive the phone calls that come straight to us, or the emails that come to us. And then we kind of are, I kind of explain this to people in this way, is we are like the case managers for these animals. Uh-huh. So we then do, okay, here we had an intake of 7 calls this week, or these are the items that were needed. And then we go through what is the most urgent ones, so ones that need to be managed right away, and then the ones that we can go ahead on outreach on Saturdays and Sundays and fill those mm-hmm. what I would say those needs that are asked. Okay. And then when that happens, so we kind of are like a spider, or even like an octopus. We kind of branch off in a bunch of different avenues from just our what I would call our main mm-hmm. source of what we do. But what we'll do is, depending on if it's an urgent need, my mom will more than likely go ahead, get on the phone with them, ask them in detail what's going on with your animal. She'll then go ahead and make arrangements with either a doctor or a vet's office, if that's the immediate need, or an emergency care center. And then if that's not the situation and it's something that they can wait on mm-hmm. For a couple days, then we will go ahead and grab the items that are needed for that weekend. And then we will go ahead and start going out to camps on Saturdays or Sundays and delivering those items. Sometimes it takes a good majority of the day. I would say, how many camps do you try to hit up each weekend, Mom?
It just depends. And the thing is, to give them that, they have to be in the program.
They have to be, okay.
So they do have to sign up.
And that's
okay.
a way we get them in the program is just requirement of spay neuter. I mean, because we are working with other rescue groups that we have signed contracts to get the donations of dog and cat food, because we need like pallets to get us through the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to Uplift. That's where I feel like we funnel the things that we don't have to be out there to all these different places, because we can't. There's no way. Yeah. We're such a tiny, tiny group. And so what we do is tell them if they spay and neuter their dog and cat, then they get vaccinations yearly, that we'll take care of that. And we'll also make sure they have collars and leashes, and they have food. Constantly. Yeah, they have all that.
She cooks. She's a traditional Mexican mom, and she loves to cook treats and snacks and stuff, and she takes those out with her to them.
Because you're also helping them out. I mean, we get the clothing donated, so most of it goes to Uplift, the clothing, the tents and things like that, but we carry, all of us that are the Angel Hearts carry like socks, or we'll carry gloves if it's wintertime, carry a hat, because sometimes their stuff gets wet. I mean, where are they going to take it to get, laundered? So we'll carry those things with us, and while we're helping them and talking to them about their dog and cat, what they need to do, I mean, this year what we did was we did Seresto collars. Those are $100 and some.
So you educated them.
Yeah, we did that. We did.
Can
also,
you describe for some of the listeners who don't know what the collars are?
Sure. The Seresto collars last about 8 months, and it's really good when you're living in the wooded area. For them, it's the fleas and ticks. It helps them. So that way they're not getting infections from chewing or biting the fleas that are attacking them. And then we also did another thing we started this year. We did the Pro Heart, which is a vaccination that lasts a whole year for heartworms, because that's the last thing you want to see is to deal and put a dog through that whole treatment. So that's what we're doing with all the dogs that are in our program. There's not like lots of dogs compared to so many cats. Yeah. So it just depends. Like 1 week to 3 weeks ago, we did 13 cats from three different people. So I mean, the cost is really up there, but it's still a great. We get really great help from the Pet Resource Center, which used to be called Spay Neuter Kansas City. Any dog and cat that comes through from a homeless person, they do not charge us for the spay and neuter. Oh, so we have awesome people that back us. I mean, they're just out there for us.
And Nicole, go ahead.
And the Casey Pet Project, there's Amanda who was at Spay Neuter, and she's now heading out the Community Outreach Center and giving us like cat food. She's giving us the paper towels. You wouldn't believe that we need that for like the fosters that are doing the kittens right now and stuff like that. So
she's giving us technology resources. Yeah. She's also, because she knows that I'm also fresh and green and trying to figure out how to do all these really cool maneuvers online. She in addition to that, just as because she's just an amazing person, she really was just like, here are some technology issues or some technology programs that I think would be very helpful for you and can kind of cut down on some of the work that you're already doing. And so she really was beneficial and continues to be beneficial for us. And those are all because of these networks that my mom cultivated 12, 13, 15, 20 years down the line. A lot of these people that are at the Pet Resource Center, her name's Michelle Riviera, and she did, work with my mom, and my mom volunteered with her. And places that are even like Casey Pet Project and with Amanda Gatton. The amount of work that she put in so early on into the rescue world is literally the reason why we are where we're at.
Well, you're established, and you've created. I think that the hard part, having been in animal rescue myself for 2 years with Wayside Waves, is all I can say is it becomes an agony on your heart, and the longevity for volunteers to go in and out, the patience, the understanding. It's not easy work, and for someone to have dedicated more than a decade of her life, when we're talking like 20, going 30 almost years of it.
Yes.
I can only imagine, if I spoke to people who've worked with you in the past, the respect you would have in this community. Because already, I mean, I had mentioned to you to Wayside, and Wayside knew of your organization.
Oh, they
did? They did.
Oh, wow.
And the thing is that I would love, I'm the person who loves to keep conversations going. I know there's different, I hate to say it, but there's lots of red tape through different organizations, especially when you're doing things that are outside a shelter. So I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about a story or an instance to where we got, as animal lovers and advocates, the agony can be pulling at your heart, and then all of a sudden it's that one day that you're like,
this is why,
and it gives you that extra mojo of like, all right, I'm doing this. Do you have a story like that you could share?
So many. You see a lot of bad things go on too. I think that we were helping a guy named Shannon, and he was on the West Bottoms, and he lived on the other side of the water plant. And so he had a little neat setup. He had a shack that he put together and built, and he had like solar, and he'd ride his bike to go get things. He had like a little cart behind. And somehow, it was a few years ago, we got to know him really well. Even Uplift went back there and bring him food.
And he would help with
yeah, he would try to help, yeah. And so he had gotten kittens. And so we were trying to show him what he needed to do, making sure that they were getting fed and things like that, and making sure they had kitten food and not just, giving them whatever came off the truck, because sometimes it's just adult cat food. Yeah. And so he was murdered. And so
oh my God.
It was horrible. And I mean, he was just murdered they found him on the embankment, and it's like, you don't know. And it was really scary. So from another camp, his name is Bill, and he took a dog that was being beaten. And so he saved up enough money, took the dog, and offered this guy money, and he took it. And this dog actually, which is kind of going to another story, but his dog's name is Boss, and he ended up saving them because the candle tipped over in their tent, started a fire, and he woke them up. His dog Boss woke up the people in the tent. So what he did was we got to know each other really well. And so he was the one who went with me every Saturday and Sunday, sitting there waiting we had traps to get the kittens. And they were like 8 or 9 months old, but waiting, and there was like 5 of them. And so we took turns with people that I knew that were big guys, or just guys that were definitely not afraid of anything. And I knew I shouldn't be going down there by myself because that person was still not caught. Yeah, he was still not caught. I didn't know who it was, and sometimes there were people inside his shack already taking stuff. Yeah. So we went ahead and got the cats, and actually back then we found a great rescue called the Pet Resource and the cat adoption. And it's over in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. So what was
my sister's from Portland. Yeah. I love Portland, Oregon.
Nice. Yeah, we did the travel straight there and straight back and slept 4 hours. Yeah. Someone rented a hotel for us, and we slept 4 hours. But we were getting back on the highway, and it was in November. We hit the storm, and they gave us a clear to get back. Everybody get back on the highway. And just as we had full truck full of cats and kittens that were being taken by them, and of course you have to go through so many hoops to get them, but people were waiting in line for these cats. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so
Oregon loves cats.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what happened was this trailer is also on the side of us, and we're driving in a van, and this trailer starts fishtailing, and it hits our van. And I'm seeing this in slow motion. I'm thinking, I wasn't driving. I'm telling the person driving, we're going to get hit. We're going to get hit. They're going to hit us. And she's trying to ride the inside of the medium, trying to get as close as the medium without getting and hitting it. And so it hit us. And it hit us, I'm pretty sure, pretty hard, that we probably have a dent, and I didn't get insurance on the van. And so I'm thinking, oh my God. So we're trying to stop. The other van is ahead of us, and they're trying to slow the van down to say, you just hit somebody. We need your information. We get out, and there's like a little nick on the mirror. And I'm just saying, Shannon is watching his cats. Yeah. He's watching his cats.
I love that.
So that was kind of, it was just kind of oh my God. How did this happen? How did we not get hurt more than we were supposed to? Because everybody was sliding.
It was a snow out that whole highway. I think there was a record number of accidents on that highway that day, as bad as it got. Yeah. And so it was almost a year ago last week, or not a year ago.
2016.
4 years ago last week. Yeah. It was right at this time.
Yeah. And we made that trip. We drove all those cats.
And you guys were very much like it. We were hit. Yeah. We were hit, and
I got on the phone. It's like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe God was Shannon and God were standing next to us, because we were just smacked. And I was like, oh my God, how did we not hit the medium? Yeah. And it's like, okay, God, this is it. I'm going. Yeah. This is my day.
I love it. If you could, maybe I think a lot of people always have preconceived notions about certain organizations. I think that we all kind of develop in our brains this sense of, well, if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of an animal? So what I'd like is for you to speak to maybe educating people about, really speak to that, and how, no, that's not necessarily the case, and that these animals are providing kind connection, and then vice versa, that
the compassion.
and the people are actually care about these animals. They're not all bad.
Yeah, and they're not. And we get that all the time. It's just it's educating even some of the shelters.
It's re-educating people what they
because we run across that too, where they would say, well, they wouldn't say it in a sense, but they would make it difficult for us to get back the dog or cat that we adopted that belongs to a homeless person. But the thing is that
because we microchip all the animals that are in the program, and so therefore
we can't do the cats, but we can do the dogs.
Yeah.
So we know when we get a call, that's our dog, and we need to get them back into that person. But it's usually a stray that they find, and they're trying to save themselves. They're trying to save them on their own, but they don't have the money. Yeah. There's no money. Yeah. Where are they going to get the money from? And who are we to judge how that person got there? Because there are so many stories you would listen to that would break your heart. How did that person, did they get to where they were abused when they were younger? Yeah. Did they come from a situation where they were kicked out, or they lost their job? Because now you're seeing that with the COVID, they're losing their job. Mm-hmm. They're barely hanging on. They were in an apartment. Now they've got whatever they have along with their belongings and maybe their cat, or maybe they find a cat or a dog out there that they're trying to, feel compassion for that animal because they feel that what's happened to them, they want to also take care and give back. Yeah. So we try to educate them and let them know that we are not here to judge them, definitely going to help them. But if there's also times where they know, it's like, we can't take this on. Do you have a way to get them into a home? Yes, we do, because we work with a rescue group, and it's Casey Paws. Sandy's she's also on our board. So we're networking like crazy. We're trying to figure out, okay, this doesn't work. So no, not all the time do they stay with their person. They will also tell us, don't give it to us because there's somebody on the other camp who needs it. And, and they'll let us know when there's a cat or dog hurt or missing or something's happened. And it's hard because sometimes they don't even have phones. Their phones have died, and where are they going to charge it now? I mean, you said like you can't go to a library. But we let them know that, there are people who care about it, and they will tell us that we love you. When you walk away, thank you, we love you. Thank you for helping us, thank you for helping my dog. And so you have that, but you also, I'm not going to say you have bad things that happen too, where a person is so addicted that they're not thinking about what they're doing to their animals. So we take them on too. We go get them and we put them into a home where we screen and we make sure that they're going to a home. We make sure that those people, but you see that in homes too.
Well, 100%. And that's the thing.
You see that as rescuing, as I did dog rescue. You walk away and I've seen where I've adopted a dog and I made the wrong decision, and she's got both of them out there in the dead of winter and their water bowl's frozen. Yeah. And go get my dog. It's like, that's not part of the contract. Right. I gave you a chance and I'm taking it back.
Well, and I think the thing too is that when you explain it so well, where I'm very much where I just ask somebody point blank, do you have a dog? And majority of the time, 90% of the time, if they're speaking to us specifically about the houseless people having animals, and I'll say, do you have a dog? Do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? Do you have something that you live at home? And they're like, of course. And I'm like, would you do anything for that animal if you saw that your dog was hurt or your cat was hurt or they ran away or they needed the vet? Like, would you call? Would you do something? Well, of course I would. Well, that's exactly what our houseless people would do. Yeah. They just don't have the option to plug their phone in every day. They don't have the option to call us to say this is what we need. But they always do it. Yeah. They always call us. And when people will also ask, but they don't have a house and they can't, bathe it and they can't walk it. Well, they're outside, so they get actually way more exercise than the normal dog does typically in a house. Yeah. The other aspect of it is that it's not because they don't have it. It's because what they do have, which is the love and compassion. And I always tell people love has no boundaries, because it doesn't. Just because maybe you love somebody in another country, it's not going to keep you from possibly not seeing them. So just because this person doesn't have a home doesn't mean that they can't have their animal, their love with them too. So I try to flip the script on people. I like to just say, well, if you lost your house tomorrow, wouldn't you want somebody to be there for your dog if they needed that? Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Well, that's exactly what our houseless people need. Yeah. And and in trying to do that, it just seems to be where they start to get it, or they see physically with their eyes like what's actually being done, and then they're like, oh, okay, I understand now what you're trying to do. You're trying to help them in a certain way. And my mom always goes above and beyond the call of duty for every person. So when they see her, specifically when she's talking to people, I feel like they feel her compassion, and they feel that if she were to see something that maybe wasn't on the up and up, that she's so informed and educated and knows, like, okay, you know what, maybe this isn't the right fit for you. But I mean, we're always on. Yeah. You always have to be on. You're always on when it comes to ear perks, red flags, any little thing.
Well, your instincts have got to be up after so many years, and you know what to look for.
When you walk away and you find out that a dog is dead because you didn't do something, or that you know somebody is really messed up, that it's not a good thing, then you have your eyes open.
Totally. It stays with you. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how.
But it's the education. It's educating. If they can get that, they can get that, and let's have somebody help them, then they're so grateful. They're always saying, you know, thank you for helping us. Thank you for giving my dog this and that. And
Brandy's a very good example of that.
Brandy's a guy who just got out of he was living in a junkyard.
I have to say, as someone who first met your daughter, and somebody who, I don't know, maybe it's being 43 and kind of coming into my own and having strong opinions.
Yeah.
I sat down with your daughter, and she answered all my questions about your organization. Because I had pause, because I live downtown. Yeah. I see a lot of homeless people. I see backpacks strapped to dogs with all this stuff, and then I'll see, conditions of it, and my heart goes as it would, like when I work at Wayside, to where it's like, that dog looks abused, I'm going to take that dog away. Mm-hmm. And all I can say is you're doing something right, because you've led by example, and now your daughter is spreading your message. She spread it to me. She opened my heart up. And I think, as we talk about this, I'd like to know what your wish is for your organization in the next 6 months to a year. And then there's a part 2 to that. So what's your wish?
I think that it would be nice to be able to help more, because of vet bills. Our bills are so high. I mean, we're like in thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. So what we do is like, okay, by donations.
Mildly.
Yeah. We're like,
so what would that look like?
Okay.
So if someone's listening to the podcast, if you were going to say 3 places your organization needs most help in, I would say number 1 would be financial, donation based, correct?
Yes.
And talk to us a little bit, because that's the first one. We'll go to the other 2. The first one with donation base. Can you talk to the viewers and listeners about costs? Like what's the average cost of vaccinations? What's the average cost of when you go into a camp? Like how much food is needed, so we can kind of understand.
Exactly. I guess I can start by saying we took in 13 to spay neuter Kansas City, and without having to pay for spay neuter, the cost for the actual being altered, that was waived, because they are from homeless people. A woman living out of her car, she had 3 of them. We had a guy named Carl, he had 8 cats, and we had another one that we got off the street that we took in to foster while it gets neutered. So that bill was $957 for 13 cats. And that was we also did the combo testing, is it FIV or feline leukemia. We treat them just like we treat our own dogs and cats, and give them their opportunity to get the vaccinations that they need, to get the FERCP for the cats. And get them the right things, like, for instance, the dogs. I mean, we don't want a dog they're in a camp, of course. Well, they need something that's going to be stronger, like the Seresto collars that helps with the fleas and ticks.
How many Seresto collars did we buy?
we bought at least 8 of them.
And how much?
And they were like $56 a piece.
Okay.
But to me, I divided that up and said, okay, that's easier for me than trying to meet up with them, because sometimes they're not in the same spot. Giving them every month was really hard. I did that so many years where I was meeting them, doing their heartworm preventative and doing their flea and tick.
So that was for us easier to do.
So I got them once. I know I'm going to get them, and this is how I work with our regular vet, Jenny, over at Mission Animal Clinic. And it's like, okay, we got them. Let's get everything done.
So when we go in to see Jenny, what is a typical cost when you are taking
about $300?
About $300
a visit.
And then what's the average that you go in to see Jenny?
That's what I'm saying, about 300.
No, how many times do you
How many
see?
times?
How many times? It just depends.
Yeah.
I mean, everything changes within minutes. We'll get a call, and it's like, okay, I need to go get this dog.
I would say I've been to Mission Animal Clinic this month 6 times on my own.
Okay, and that's
how many times?
For me. It's literally like, for me, when I'm a money girl. I'm always been a money girl. So for me, when we have this moment, for me, I'm like, hey, listeners, if you're doing the math and you're going to donate money to an organization, think $300. What does $300 get you?
Yes.
You know?
Right.
So $300 for them saves at least
one
animal, which is, to me,
and $300, I would say that would be like for a dog or a cat that was seeing our regular vet because it's got something wrong.
Right.
That would be taking care of a dog or a cat that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. For an average, maybe for a dog or a cat, for a dog to be spay, neuter, vaccinated, microchipped.
What's that?
I'm going to say that's about $89 for everything.
For a dog.
For a dog. And for a cat, maybe it's going to be about...
and those are rescue
prices.
prices.
$79. That's what rescue prices.
Those are rescue prices.
Okay. Yeah.
So those are those little discounts that we can get through that.
So then and I'm gonna go back into money. Don't let me forget that. 2 other ways, if you could just say, if someone could help my organization, would it be volunteering? Would it be a bigger organization like another shelter get involved? What would be
fostering? Finding good fosters that you can rely on, that because sometimes we will just need them for when a dog gets spay and neutered. We tell them that the part of the spay and neuter especially is to get them out of the camp, because we don't want them to get infected, or something comes up and say, for instance, they have trouble with their surgery, then we hold them for 5 days. So we need a place where, because normally they're going into maybe sometimes my home, or I'm trying to get them into boarding.
Right.
And it's just needing 5 days for them to get off the street.
And sometimes it's also when we're coming into right now the cold season.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So during this time period, we have a lot of phone calls of people who would like to go in shelters themselves, but they can't, because they can't take their pet with them into shelter. So you can't take pets into shelters right now, into the houseless shelters. So then they'll call us, and they either will do one of 2 things. They will either stay outside with their pet because they can't bring him in, or they will say, is there any way that you can find shelter for my pet for X amount of days so I can go into the shelter, and then can I go ahead and have my pet out? There's also one dog that we do have, she's an older one, Julie, where anytime it is cold, past a certain degree, where we will go get her, so that way she's on a continuous program where she does stay sheltered. And it's not every day, but it could be where she just needs a shelter for the weekend, or for just the week, and then she goes back for the weekend. So it's our foster program is a little bit more chopped up in that way, but we also think it might be good for people, because we're not looking for a long commitment in permanent housing, but we're just looking for, those moments where it is cold or it is hot, when it gets hot outside. And so those are our biggest with fostering, and because we have such a huge database of animals, ideally we'd love for them to all be warm in a foster program during this time period.
And then what would be, I would say, a third wish from either a person or an organization? What ideally would help?
A boarding facility, a place where we can do, because
brick and mortar for dogs.
Because there's nowhere in Kansas, there's nowhere in Missouri where a person can take their dog or their cat. I mean, all you have is for abused women, they can take in one,
and that's hard too, because sometimes they'll call us, they have more than one.
Yeah. But I'm so glad that a lot of times, when we have these opportunities to speak, I think people like to just, again, blindly throw money. They don't know where it's going. They don't actually know the costs. For your specific organization, it's so important that people understand what the needs are, because a lot of times people will donate blindly and money goes and it gets distributed in different places. So if someone wanted to directly go to you, where on social media can they find you first?
So first we have our website. That is our first and foremost, where you can email us directly at, as well as we have our direct donate button on there. And that is checked on a regular basis. So that's really the first and foremost. And then for people to see live time of what goes on, as well as updates of what's happening, our Facebook page, angelheartsrescue.org, and then our Instagram, Angel Hearts Rescue. Those are what we update. Those are what I update lively, so that way people are aware of what's going on. And also, too, so that way people also know where their donation's going to. That's one thing that I think for her that she's stressed upon me in organizations that she's worked on in the past is just transparency and allowing people to see exactly where their money is going. Because one, we are in COVID and people are losing their jobs, or they're being furloughed, or they're being stepped back on their hours. So for us, if somebody is going to give, and even before COVID, but even specifically now, we want you to know that we truly appreciate it. When they say small businesses, when you buy from small businesses, you see a little dance. Well, when you donate to a local rescue, we dance. We're like, oh my God! I'll call my mom, like, Mom, did you see this came in? Or we got $200. Oh my gosh! Like, we don't ever get big donations like that. So like, we'll call each other and we'll be like, oh, this is so exciting! I can't believe it.
We do our group. There's like just four main people,
and we put it out there. So we want people to know that what you put into the organization, like, we feel it, we see it, and we will do whatever we need to, so that way you can see that you are making a difference. And a lot of people will thank us online, right? And they'll be like, thank you for what you're doing, and you guys are angels. I think we're angels by product just because of our Angel Hearts Rescue. But I tell people it's not what we're doing for them, it's what they're doing for us. I know that for myself, for my kids, that they are learning to be just grounded. They see their grandma go out and do rescue, and she's kind of a superhero in their eyes, and they can also talk to and speak on rescue. My son can hear something and be like, that's not right. Grandma says that all dogs should be rescued, and that all and the other day he actually told me, he goes, Mom, he goes, I found out that Grandma was at my school for, Miss Kathy was at my school for some organization with Uplift, and Grandma knows her, and I know Grandma because I saw Grandma talking to her. So it's so good for him to also see, and all of these little guys to see it. But for us, if you're going to give to Angel Hearts, like you are giving. So we're just doing the work that you're allowing us to do by donation, and the houseless people that are on the street are allowing us to help them because they don't have to. And I know for my mom, I've asked her this question before, if we weren't doing this, like, what else would you be doing? And she's like, I don't really know if there would be anything else I would be doing. She would be doing something with animals and something with people. So
it's just doing something.
It's not.
Well, it's called a calling.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not trying to, I don't know. It's funny. I think that it's really beautiful when, I've always loved the word nobility, right? And nobility doesn't have to be some grandiose thing. I think it's so important to recognize that sometimes it's the smallest action that creates the biggest impact.
Yes.
But you don't think about it. I guess what I want to say is that you do not think about the money. I don't think about, okay, what am I
That's
going
what
to
I'm
do?
here
How,
for.
how are we going to figure this out?
what she's
I just
That's
think
what I'm
I've got a
here for.
credit card that's got $3,000 left
And I'm
on
thinking
it.
my mom needs to be able to retire on something and
But you don't.
have her house.
It's not like a group that we pay. And I don't like groups like that. I mean,
And
I know
we're
that
all
they need
volunteer.
to.
None of us get
I
paid.
mean, and that's why I look at it as morally. We're doing the compassion that we're doing, you know, listening and not saying that we're paying ourselves, because I mean, that's the opposite. It's like, okay, what do we need to come out of our pockets to get these bills paid? And it was so hard. It was not so hard because I had a job in the past where, I mean, I could pay for everything up front, and I was doing that all the time. But in this situation, it's much bigger. It's a bigger thing that's growing and growing and growing. And it's like, I don't know where, I mean, we can't keep up. I can't keep up with the list of people. Every day it's like, okay, we got a new person. And Crosslines, we're networking with Crosslines that's over in KCK. You know, Uplift is one of our biggest supporters, and we just had a meeting with them. And what are we doing, and how are we going to partnership with that? And the Pet Rescue Center, we're partners with them. And it's like it's on its own, it's growing by itself, and you're just hanging on. You know, all we're doing is hanging on, figuring out how we're going to pay the bills, and we let people know what is it. And sometimes they'll say, I only want the bill to go to Brandy. Brandy just got off the street. He's living in a house, and in him it's a castle, but it's a house with a hole in the back of the back bedroom, has no electricity, and it has no plumbing because someone has ripped it all out. But he is thinking, this is awesome. So he's got propane that we've got. He's got propane. We're keeping that going, and people want to donate. This is for Brandy and for his house. You know, so yes, it's going to go to Brandy. You know, we're going to keep the propane going for him. So that's why we never walk away from them entirely. We are there monthly for them because they are part of the program, and we want to make sure that that dog's going to have what it needs, or that cat.
And that's where you go above and beyond. And that's when you don't.
We
That's
all
what
do.
she doesn't. You do, but that's where she just doesn't see it. And she just. My mom is like an Energizer bunny. She just keeps. She keeps going. Yes.
Sometimes you have to.
You do.
I think in this line of work,
You do.
You just have to have the will, and you definitely have it. I see it and I feel it from you. And I have to say to the two of you, I'm just going to get... people like you humble me. Because at the end of the day, we all are capable of greatness.
Yes.
I just think that some of us don't get, we're not as flashy, and we do it in quieter ways. And for me, the reason why it's so important that I'm here with you today is because I believe in what you do.
Yeah.
And in the beginning I was a little, and what I love about it is keeping your heart open and being compassionate and having that empathy. So know that you have one more person that's going to be a cheerleader for you guys.
Thank you.
You have all of Team Fiend here. And we've all made a commitment and a promise that this year that we are going to literally use our platforms at several times a month to raise awareness about what you guys are doing.
I appreciate that.
And when I look in the camera now, I'm looking at you guys who are watching. For those of you listening, I just ask that just go to their Instagram, take a look at the photographs, and make your decision if this is an organization that you would consider either donating money to, your time, or just maybe sharing it with another person. The more people that know about what they're doing, the more chance that they have to help these animals that are on the street, and in turn helping people who otherwise feel hopeless, especially in this day and age. And we need a little bit more of that. I can't thank you to enough. Anytime you want my microphones, anytime you want our devices to use to spread your word, it's open. And I am a huge fan of the two of you. I don't want to end this, but I also I want people to listen to it and to really digest it. And please check out the Angel Hearts organization. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they do have a website, but please do whatever you can. even if it's just looking at the pictures and seeing what they do. I promise you it'll open your heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for having us.
You guys are the best.
Giving us the opportunity.
For sure. You're going to be back, and we're going to see what how you've grown.
Yes, absolutely.
We're behind this. Well, I'm doing a shameless plug. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, because it's great to be doing things for free, but it would be really nice if I got a sponsor. So like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.